Hello friends, it's Christine. Welcome to another video. Today I am coming to you from my bedroom floor. And I'm going to be talking to you about homeschool mom burnout and not how to avoid it, because I think I've done a video on that before. And if I have, I'll link it here. I know I've got a blog post on it. I'm going to talk to you today about what to do when you're burnt out. Because the reality is, as much as we talk about avoiding burnout, we almost inevitably end up there anyway. And sometimes we don't need someone, like when you're down in that hole, you don't need someone like standing there like, well, if you do this and this and this, you won't find yourself in this situation again. You're like, no. I need someone to like give me a hand up out of the hole. And so that's what this video is about. I hope that you find it helpful. And if you are new, I am a homeschooling mama to 3 kids. They're 5, 4, and 2. And I share homeschool content here. So if that's your thing, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like this video if you enjoy it. Oh my gosh, I tripped over my words. Okay, let's get into the video. I've got 4 tips that I kind of wrote down. I might add to it. I might elaborate on it. We'll see how it goes. I am kind of the queen of getting burnt out. I suck at avoiding it. Like, I am getting better, but I find myself there every few months. I'm just like, I'm done, and I need like a 2-month holiday from life because I'm so tired and just mentally burnt out. For me, it's not physical, it's mental. Like, I get brain fog. Words are hard. I get brain fog, and I cannot think, and I literally cannot get on the computer and do my work that I need to do. And by that stage, it's usually too late, and I need to just like shut everything down for like a week so that I can rest. So I'm the queen of being there. I'm really bad at taking regular breaks. I'm hoping this next school year we will be better, because I'm planning on doing a 6-week on, 1 week off sort of school term, like just keeping, not even a term, but like a cycle throughout the year, so that we're having more frequent breaks throughout the year. Whereas this year we followed the traditional school term over here in New Zealand, which is 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and there's 4 school terms. And 10 weeks is a long time when you're also working from home, and that's my thing. I think homeschooling is hard, parenting is hard, and then working from home is hard, and when you put them all together, it's just really hard. And so you have to put those breaks in. But again, we're not talking about like preventative stuff. I'm talking about what to do when you are finding yourself in that situation. So the first thing I'm going to say is stop everything. And I know sometimes you think, but my kids need to do school right now. Like, I know that in some states there are regulations, and I don't know if maybe you can work it out so that you can make up that time. But if at all possible, stop school. If you're working from home and can take a break from that. I did it last week. I was burnt out by the end of our 3rd school term. And so I, for the first time ever, did not work from home and did not do school. And I cannot remember, the last time I would have lived like that was maybe when my eldest was a new baby. And that was 5.5 years ago now. And it was so weird to me waking up and not having deadlines and not having like, we need to be here and we need to do this and I have to have this done by this time. Like, it was the weirdest thing, but it was also the best thing, because I could just rest. Like, I sat down and watched a movie with my kids in the afternoon. I never do that because I don't have time, because I've got to get this done and that done and blah, blah, blah. And so stop what you're doing. Stop everything that you can possibly do and rest, and feel zero guilt about it, because you need to rest. It is vital. So stop that. And if you cannot stop everything, reduce it down to as much as you possibly can. So a way to do that is like all unnecessary school subjects. Cut them out. Like, stick to the bare basics. With work, for me, I like cut back to anything I just don't have to do that isn't urgent. I'll just cut it out. But like specifically talking about school, because this is more of like a homeschool video and not necessarily a work from home mom video. Cut back on all the subjects you do not have to do. If there are activities you can drop out of at the time, drop out of them. Your kids need a healthy mom, and a healthy mom needs to be rested and not completely burnt out. So you're only going to recover when you actually get a chance to rest. So just stop or reduce stuff. The next thing I would suggest doing is reevaluating what you deem to be necessary. That can be in your school. And I remember my mom one time coming to this point. She was obviously just burnt out, and she was homeschooling all of us, and we were involved in lots of church activities and homeschool activities. And I remember us driving to a church activity in the evening, and we were eating our dinner off our laps in the car, and she was like, that's enough. This is ridiculous. We need to be able to sit and eat dinner as a family. We're not doing this anymore. And she cut everything down. And yeah, you have to step back and think is this really necessary? And I think as homeschool moms, we can get really caught up in this expectation of, because there's that whole thing of how are your kids going to be socialized? And so we can kind of be out to prove to the world that we don't need school to socialize our kids. So we're going to do this activity and that activity, and we're going to attend this group, and we're going to join in this community project and blah, blah, blah. And we end up overloading ourselves. The reality is your kids don't need all that. And as great as experiences are and all of that, we can be guilty of overloading both our kids and ourselves. And so I encourage you to step back and think, do we really need to do this? Do we really need to do that? Are these subjects vital in our season right now? And sometimes it doesn't mean that you're saying goodbye to those things forever. It's just for a season that you need to step back and take things slowly as a family. Maybe school will consist of language arts and math, and then you'll just do read alouds for everything else. And that's okay, So, yeah, reevaluate what is really, truly vital to your homeschool and to your family, and then just stick with those for the time being. My next point is to practice self-care and putting up boundaries, and really boundaries is part of self-care. But this is something that I'm always working on and trying to get better at. And when I'm talking about self-care, I'm not talking about manicures and massages and getting your hair done. Those things are really nice, but honestly, they're not self-care. That's just nice things that are fun to do, Self-care is more about having boundaries set up on a daily basis so that you don't become burnt out. And when you're in that burnt out stage, you can stop everything and rest, but then you need to focus on self-care and boundaries in order to recover, because otherwise you're just going to end up in the same place all over again. So some things that I find, I start getting burnt out. I've got 3 really little kids, and they're home with me 24/7. It is very, very rare where I'm home alone without my children. That just doesn't really happen. And it's not because I don't have a supportive husband. He's great. It's just that when he's home from work, we're spending time as a family. So it's not often that I'm alone. And so I really need to have boundaries with my children so that I do get some alone time even when they're home with me. So for us, that looks like having an hour of quiet time every afternoon where my kids are in their separate areas playing quietly, and then they're allowed an hour of screen time together. And during that 2-hour span, they leave me alone. That is when I rest. Sometimes it's when I work, but it is time on my own. And I found that I start getting burnt out when I lax those boundaries. And I'm oh, it's okay if you just play outside. And then what ends up happening is they come in and interrupt me a million times, and I become resentful of that. And then I start getting burnt out because I'm not getting that quiet time. And so it's not my kids' fault. It's my fault for not putting those boundaries up and making sure that they're enforced. And I'm not talking about military regime things, but it is not unrealistic to expect your children to have some quiet time in their rooms, and it is just as good for them as it is for yourself. So if you're finding that you are completely worn out, and I think this is especially true for brand new homeschoolers, because you go from maybe having your kids in public school for 6 hours a day or however long it is where you're from, to having them with you all of the time. And that is a lot. I'm someone who's never known having my kids away from me. From the time they were born, they've never gone to preschool or daycare or anything. They've always been with me. And so it's hard, and I acknowledge how difficult that is. And so I've learned to put in things in place so that we get our space and our time away from one another. But if you've never had to do that before, and that that schooling has automatically done that for you, then this is something that you're going to have to practice doing, and you're going to have to teach your children. And it'll come with some teething pains. They're going to resist it. Even my kids, if I've been lax and I've let them do other things instead of quiet time, it takes a few days for them to get used to it before. And there's definitely some resistance there. There's Mom, this is so unfair. I can't spend that time playing in my room. I don't have enough toys. Anyway, the typical excuses. And you'll have to like kind of be the mean mom for a little bit, but overall it will work better for your family because everyone needs that space from one another. And I just find that my children play so much more nicely together when they've had a little bit of time apart from one another. So I highly recommend putting in boundaries like that. The other firm boundary we have is bedtime. When it's bedtime, you are in your room. You do not come out unless the house is burning down or you need to use the bathroom. Or of course, like bad dreams and stuff like that. That's fine. But if they're like awake in their rooms and they haven't fallen asleep yet, we don't do excuses for like coming out a million times. And that gives me time to work on my time with my husband. We get to spend time with one another, and also just for myself to decompress. So boundaries are important. They are very much part of self-care, and I highly recommend that you work on having them in your home. And finally, I recommend that once you've had that rest time and you feel like you can sort of start doing things again and adding stuff in, do it very slowly. I saw this year a lot of homeschool moms, when they started their school year, started with one subject. And then after like a couple days or a week, they'd add in a second subject. And they slowly built up to full capacity. And this is the same sort of thing. Don't go from like resting to like whammo, we're doing it all over again. Because you will burn out just as quickly as you did the first time. So really just take your time reintroducing things. Don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. And really reevaluate what you're adding back into your life. Because as homeschool moms, our time is worth a lot. Like it's hard to get all the things done in a day, and you just have to really value it and be protective of it and decide what you're going to allow into your life and what you're going to be intentional about allowing into your day. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this video was helpful. This is as much a lesson to myself as it is to any of you because, like I said, I suck at it. I'm the queen of burnout, and it's not a fun place to be. It's so sad when all your motivation just like goes down the toilet and the joy of homeschooling is just not there anymore, and it's just a checkbox of things you have to get done in a day. That's not fun for anyone, not for you or your kids. And so we all kind of get there at some point, but there are ways to prevent it, and for sure there are ways to recover. So if you're there, if you're in that pit right now, consider this your hand up. Go ahead and comment down below with any struggles you might be having that maybe other homeschool moms can encourage you with. And just realize that you're not alone, and we will get there at some point or another. And none of us are perfect at all. Give yourself some grace, okay? You're doing a good job, a lot better than you think you are, for sure. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.
What if
Bye-bye.
the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach every